Okay, Derbyite, welcome back to our Gold Derby viewing panels for the Emmys this year. Tonight we're going to be discussing the race for Best Actor in a Comedy Series. Now, usually this race is kind of boring, let's just say that right up front. I think this year is probably the best selection of comedy actors we've had in a long, long time. I don't know, maybe my friends will agree or disagree with me. We'll find out later. But we have Charlie here and we have Ralph. Ralph, let's start with you. Who do you think is going to win this race this year?
I think it's a pretty easy category. I think Gervais has this by, I mean, without any competition really. His episode was absolutely great. It was funny. The whole from the bike riding scene to the date to the menu confusion to the frog leg stuff, and then then you've got his father. Especially at the end of the episode, he gives that awesome tearful monologue, which I think kind of just seals everything for him. I think he's great, and I mean, he's got maybe a few people that could upset him, but I think it would be an upset if anybody but Gervais won.
And let me just run through all six of the nominees here. Ricky Gervais for Derek, he submitted the episode 2.6. That's really the season 2 finale. Also, Don Cheadle is up for House of Lies for the episode Wreckage. Louis C.K. for Louie for the episode Model. Matt LeBlanc for Episodes. That's episode 306. Why don't shows name their episodes anymore? It's so confusing. William H. Macy for Shameless, the episode Lazarus. That was the finale there. And then Jim Parsons for The Big Bang Theory. The episode was The Relationship Direction. And Charlie, where do you stand? Do you agree that it could be Gervais?
I think Gervais has a very strong case to make in this. He definitely. I rewatched the episode and actually found the episode even more moving the second time I watched it. He definitely has a lot of factors in his favor. I mean, it's emotional. There are some very physically funny scenes. Like the scene on the bike at the beginning, very funny. And when he mistakes the towel as an after-dinner mint with his date, that's a very funny scene as well. But I think that there might be some apprehension, or that's not the right word. I think there might be some people who, some voters who might not know how to respond to it. One thing that has been kind of controversial about the show is the main character that Ricky Gervais plays. He has said emphatically that the character is not intellectually disabled in any way, but I'm guessing some of the voters don't know that, and they may not really know whether they're laughing at the character or with the character at certain moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as somebody that has not watched Derek, that's myself, I wasn't sure what was going on with his character, but for me that didn't matter because I know what Ricky Gervais is like in real life, and to see him play this character, I didn't realize how good of an actor Ricky Gervais actually is, because I've seen him before in Extras, of course, and on The Office. But this is a total revamping of Ricky Gervais here. And if voters really want to give it to whoever is the best actor, there's no way in my mind they can't give it to Ricky Gervais. I also have him at number 1. This is the funniest episode of all 6, and it's also the most emotional. And we always have battles here about whether dramatic performances can win in the comedy races. I think this is one example of we're going to see on Emmy night a dramatic / comedic performance win Best Comedy Actor, Best Comedy Actor. And now, if we could jump maybe to the bottom of our list, because I know we all have the same top, and that was Ricky Gervais, and I think we also all have the same person in number 6, unfortunately. Who would that be, Ralph?
That would be Oscar nominee Don Cheadle, who's won a Golden Globe for this role, and has been nominated 3 times straight now. But oh my gosh, the episode he submitted. I mean, I guess I just don't understand the show. I've watched each of his submissions now. I haven't watched the show, but each of the times he submitted, and I mean, I don't know why he just didn't send in like Hotels for Dogs, whatever movie he was in last. That would be much funnier than what he sent in this time. I just don't get it. But I mean, I think this was one of those name check type type situations there, just a continuous name check because he is Don Cheadle, and there's really, not many other options out there.
Yeah. And Charlie?
Yeah, I just I didn't have any like as visceral an emotion as Ralph had, and I love hearing Ralph describe things like that. I just want to say also, but I just felt indifferent to it. It didn't feel that important, and there doesn't feel like there's any real momentum behind it. It's the show's only nomination, I believe, and I don't really see it going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I actually watched, when I watched all six of these submissions, I watched his first, and I was actually kind of impressed with it in a way because I had seen his submission last year. It was not very good. But this year, there's that moment within the first 5 to 10 minutes where he's with Daniel Stern there on the street, and everyone kind of freezes, and he gives this really, really powerful monologue. Unfortunately, the monologue is not funny at all, and it's kind of boring actually. And I just thought it was a huge waste opportunity to have, whoever directed that did a fantastic job. The problem there was I think with the writing, because it just didn't, what he was saying did not reflect the power of what that should have been. But we know what, they love speeches at the Emmys. They always seem to give Emmys to people who give speeches, and whether you consider that a monologue or a speech, I think we I think maybe we have a mistake putting him in sixth place because of that. But what do you guys think about the whole speech effect here at the Emmys? We see that happen over and over, that someone wins with speeches, but we have him in sixth place.
I guess that just speaks for itself.
Well, I mean, I don't really think it's a speech. I mean, it's like he gives a short monologue on wouldn't it be great if, we were at a point where homes were mortgages were back up and people were making a lot of money and everything, and we're just not. So it wasn't really, I wouldn't consider it a speech. If you want a speech, William H. Macy at the end of his episode gives a harrowing speech. And that is, if there's any speech that's going to win in this category, it would be from there.
I agree. I have William H. Macy in second place. And there is a bit of a shameless bias with me because I love that show so much. But Charlie is shaking his head over and over and over. What's wrong with William H. Macy here? What do you have against him?
There's nothing wrong with William H. Macy. What William H. Macy did is not a speech, okay? Let's just get that straight. That's him just yelling at God or death for cheating him, but it ain't a speech. It's not what Bobby Cannavale did that won him his Emmy last year. It's not what Jeff Daniels did that won his Emmy last year. It's not what James Spader does or anything that involves David E. Kelly. It's not a speech. It's just a yelling him yelling at God or Lake Michigan, whatever, and saying, "Is that all you got?" That's all it is. It's not a speech.
I just thought that moment was so powerful. I had Macy in first place for a long time, actually, until I watched Ricky Gervais's episode. I had Macy in first. So currently, I put Macy down in second. Charlie? Where do you have Macy on your list?
I have him in third.
Okay.
I think he could. I just think that even with that moment at the end, and it is a powerful moment. Even as someone who hasn't watched all of Shameless, but saw that one episode, I just think that a lot of his storyline gets absorbed with all the other storylines that seem to overshadow it in a way.
Right. I know that was an issue that Tom O'Neill had too. He thought that there was a big screen time issue with William H. Macy. When I went back to watch it, I think he was in the opening scene and the closing scene. And then there were two other scenes kind of spread out in the middle. One where he's getting a photo taken with his new family. Surprise, William H. Macy didn't know he was getting a new family. And then there was another scene, I think, where the two ladies were fighting over him.
Well, there's also the scene where he gets the catheter pulled out, and that's actually a pretty funny scene.
Right, physical comedy as well. So I think it's a speech. He has speech, he has physical comedy, he has emotion, he has laughs. He has everything you need. The only thing he doesn't have is a lot of screen time. For a lead actor to win with that little screen time is, I think, his biggest detriment there. Ralph, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think I loved. Again, I also come from a bias because I'm a huge Shameless fan, but not so much in that I wouldn't rank him lower if I didn't think he could actually win. I think he had some good one-liners, and as Charlie said, he had some good scenes in there. And I still think the end had so much impact, not just because of the words. Maybe there weren't very many words going, or that he was speaking, but from his facial expressions, if you watched it closely, it was just, I thought it was pretty masterful the way he invoked every emotion that he possibly could while he was yelling up to who knows what or who do that. And I mean, it wasn't funny by any means, but it was no less funny or dramatic than Gervais's tape. And like you said, though, the screen time kills him. Gervais is in the whole thing. I can't even think of a scene that he wasn't really in, except maybe one for about 10 seconds. And so that's why I also think, he's got this in the bag. Gervais said it's not Macy.
Another problem, William H. Macy's character is not very likable, whereas Ricky Gervais's character is extremely likable. There's even one scene where Ricky Gervais kind of attacks one guy for attacking his friend, and he kind of chokes him in the room there with all of in the nursing home in the room. But do you think that William H. Macy has a unlikability factor, Ralph? I know that you did a write-up for this, didn't you?
I did. I don't think. I think what Charlie said just a little while ago, it actually helps him a lot. Is that a lot of people may not be familiar with Shameless, they may not watch it, and so when you watch this episode, you don't see Frank as you and I, Marcus, know him as this deadbeat father, this drunk, this guy who's taking advantage of life. All you see is this poor guy that wakes up in the hospital, who is all of a sudden married that he had no idea, and who's getting catheters pulled out of him, who's having crazy women outside fighting over him, and then he goes and he has this scene with his son that took him out and of the hospital. A great scene with his son, and even though he gives him a sip of whiskey, I believe it was. I mean, there's really nothing, I think, unlikable about him in this episode if you don't know the background of Frank.
That's actually a really good point. So now, Charlie, you just watched Big Bang Theory, Jim Parsons episode recently, right? What do you think about his entry this year? This is a 3-time winner. He only lost, over the past 4 years, he only lost to John Cryer. So he's very, very beloved.
And Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, his first year.
Yeah, his first year he lost to Alec Baldwin. It's a good submission. It's a very good submission, and I actually found myself laughing at this. I thought it was a very funny submission, and it takes his character, and his character is actually in the process in the beginning stage of actually growing, of developing, and moving on from a point in his life. So it's actually a pretty major thing that we see in his episode, and there's a lot of good comedy to it. I really think, and any cons that I think of with regards to his episode of why they may not vote for him, I normally just am able to say, well, it might be just bias that I hear from sometimes an echo chamber. So, I mean, he is a 3-time winner, but they love multiple winners in the comedy side. Just in the past 20, 25 years, we've seen Kelsey Grammer win 4, Candice Bergen won 5, Helen Hunt won 4, John Lithgow, David Hyde Pierce, Tony Shalhoub, Brad Garrett, Doris Roberts, all won at least 3 trophies. So it would not be that big a shock. I don't think they would have any problem awarding him a 4th statue.
Right. And I guess news broke today that starting next season, or the season that they're starting to film now, he's going to make $1 million per episode for the next 3 years, along with Johnny Galecki and Kaylee Cuoco. When I first heard that news, I thought that maybe that could hurt his chances with the voters, because if I'm a voter and I'm gonna vote for someone that I want to hug, I don't want to hug a millionaire. I want to hug someone like Ricky Gervais. You know what I mean? Someone that he plays basically a poor character who has no friends. And then you have Jim Parsons, who's making $1 million per episode. I think this came at a bad Emmy time for him. I think that news is going to hurt his chances.
Here's the thing about that. Brad Garrett won one of his Emmys for Everybody Loves Raymond right after, I believe, while voting was taking place. It was during salary negotiations, and him and several of the other cast members of Everybody Loves Raymond were asking for more money. He even joked about it in his acceptance speech. Two of the cast members of Friends won, and when I was reading this, I just remember when I was, back in the late '90s when the Friends cast was asking for $1 million an episode for each one of them. So it doesn't hurt them.
So in other words, you're saying, Marcus, you're dead wrong here.
Absolutely.
And Ralph, where do you come out on this, Jim Parsons?
I also have Parsons in third, and I also think you're dead wrong on the salary thing, because Ricky Gervais is a millionaire himself, so I don't really see too much bias there from voters, and a lot of voters are millionaires themselves, and they also know how hard it is to work on a sitcom, and especially with a network as big as CBS, and I mean, there's a lot of variables. I think that it's actually deserved what he's getting. But I do think that, as I mentioned to you guys earlier, I guess before the chat, was that his funniest scenes to me came with the voicemails, and he wasn't on screen. I mean, I guess there was one that was really funny, was when he woke up with the geology book, as Charlie had mentioned. That was funny, but other than that, I was more focused on, I guess, what would be considered the other A story, which was the double date that was going on. And also, you mentioned that they love multiple Emmy winners in the comedy category, Charlie, and I agree with that, but I don't know if Jim Parsons wins number 4, he would also be joining three guys in history to only win 4, which was Carol O'Connor for All in the Family, Kelsey Grammer for Frasier, and Michael J. Fox, who won for 2 shows. But still, I mean, that's a pretty hefty batch of names for Jim Parsons to be part of, considering that his show got signed on for, was it 2 or 3 more seasons? So he's still going to be in this race and could potentially be the most awarded lead actor in a comedy, above names like Carol O'Connor and Kelsey Grammer. I don't know if that's something, and maybe they don't take in consideration, but I think it's something to pay attention to.
Yeah, in this day and age, it seems like it's getting harder and harder for people to win multiple Emmys, and maybe that has to do with the amount of great quality television on TV these days. His episode, I thought it was really good for him, and I'm not the biggest Big Bang Theory fan in the world, but seeing Sheldon going through mourning, like the stages of mourning, as he realizes that maybe string theory isn't the theory that he should hold on to anymore. So that was kind of funny. And you're right, the voicemails at the end were great. I don't think they're going to penalize him, though, for not being on camera for those. Because you know what it does? It ends the episode with you smiling and laughing. And I think that's maybe the exact opposite of Ricky Gervais, because you kind of end his episode maybe crying a little bit because his father dies. But yeah, I have Parsons in third. Actually, I predicted him to win last year. And for me to do that, not being a big fan of the show, I was able to take emotion out of it, take my anti-Big Bang Theory emotion out of it, and still say, yeah, he gave the best performance last year. But I don't think that'll happen this year. Could be wrong. I've been wrong many times before. So let's go ahead and talk about Louis C.K. for Louie for the model episode. Go ahead, Charlie. What do you think of his chances?
Well, there is a sympathy factor, I think, with his submission. There is a sympathy factor where he bombs at this benefit, and there's one person laughing. It turns out to be this very attractive young woman. She takes him back to her place, and they have sex. And afterwards, she wonders what makes him laugh, and she starts tickling him despite his very verbal objections, and he ends up cold cocking her right in the face, which is that moment is actually hysterical. Not that I advocate such things, but I did think it was funny. And then turns out he gets a lawyer, and the parents of the girl are well connected, and in order for him to not be charged with anything as a crime, he has to pay them an ungodly amount of money, for a certain amount for the rest of his life, and it's you feel bad for him, but I wouldn't go so far as to say I wanted to give him a hug as a result of it.
Mm-hmm. I thought the episode was really funny, but his performance didn't really, move me that much. What about you, Ralph?
No, not at all. I didn't find him funny at all. It's bothersome to me because it seems like a show that I should really like. Because I really love Louis C.K.'s stand-up. I could laugh for hours during his stand-up, but I could watch 6 episodes of Louis straight and maybe smirk once. I just don't get it, and I didn't get this episode too much either. I mean, he hits a girl, and the family wants $5 million, and he says, "I'm poor. I can't afford, $5,000 payments." I mean, the best part of that episode was Victor Garber, who paid his lawyer. Showing up to a benefit and you're dressed like, you just rolled off the street and you're not correct. I mean, nothing about that is funny. Like, it's just, it's annoying, if anything. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the episode, and I don't really know why he submitted it, but I don't know. I have him in 5th.
I thought it was great seeing Jerry Seinfeld again, but I'm such a Seinfeld fan. But I kind of agree with everything you guys are saying. It's just not the knockout I was hoping for from this guy. I haven't seen the rest of the season yet. Is the $5,000 a month payment, is that brought up again? Like, does he have to keep paying that throughout the season? Have you guys seen it?
I've only seen of this season. I've only seen this episode and the ones that are nominated for writing and directing, and it wasn't brought up.
Okay. And then our last contender here, I actually have Matt LeBlanc in 4th place. What about you guys? Where do you have Matt LeBlanc? Charlie?
Let me double check. Where do I have Matt LeBlanc? I actually have him in 6th place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you liked him better than Cheadle?
I think there's more factors that could contribute to a Cheadle win than a LeBlanc win.
Right. I said that the wrong way, but I think you know what I meant.
I'm just trying to be more classy about it.
Yeah. What do you think? What are his biggest detriments here, Matt LeBlanc?
There's well, with regard to the overarching story of his episode, it is very unlikable, and it's just it. While there is some very funny stuff at the beginning, it just doesn't ring like, okay, this is an Emmy episode of episodes. Which I just
and Ralph?
I actually have him in 4th. I think I wouldn't honestly. Well, I would a little bit, I guess, but not too much. Shock if he pulled off a shocker at the Emmys. I thought his opening was great. I thought he started off really strong. The whole monologue about how British people are invading America and taking all of the actors' jobs. I thought that was great, and I think it's something that a lot of his fellow friends and Emmy voters could relate to, because I've heard a lot of that myself from other people. But I think he started off really strong, but I think Charlie's right. I think as the episode wore on, the writers, for some reason, decided, all right, Joey's not going to be likable anymore. We're going to have him. Or, I'm sorry, Joey. Matt LeBlanc is not going to be likable anymore. He's going to sleep with his co-star's sister/daughter, and then his wife finds out, and he's going to deny it and then let her walk away and be kind of unapologetic about it. And I mean, I guess he apologizes, but he apologizes in such a dude way that it also through the episode, I always think when I watch the show, because I don't watch it very much, but I watch it if it's on. Was Matt LeBlanc really Joey, just smarter? Because it's like he plays. It's like the same kind of a jock type of guy, kind of dumb, but not really. I mean, it's just like there's no range or stretch that he does. It just seems like it's the same character without a few of the taglines that he's famous for.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's not really acting a lot. Same with Louis C.K. I mean, to be fair, they're playing versions of themselves, so they shouldn't be required to act a lot. But he is a lot like Joey. There's not a lot of differences between Matt LeBlanc and Joey. But I do have to say my favorite scene of this episode was the scene where he was having sex with the daughter, and then afterwards when he finds out, how old she is and that she's the daughter, he's like, "Okay, get your hand off my dick." That actually had me laughing so hard. And it's funny, I had seen that episode like when it aired, whoever knows, like January or something, and it didn't. I don't know why it didn't occur to me back then that this could be his episode submission. But when I watched it now, I thought it was a good choice for him. The only thing is that he does kind of disappear as the story focuses on the two British writers. And correct me if I'm wrong, but those two enter supporting at the Emmys, don't they? They should. This is a three-lead show. Those are all leads on the show, and I can't believe they're entering supporting. And if they're listening to this, those two, I think her name is Tamsin Greig, and his name is, oh, I forgot. But they should definitely try lead next year because you're not getting any luck in supporting. You might as well go lead, guys. So final thoughts here. What do you guys think of the comedy actor race this year? This is always a race that we kind of make fun of because it's so boring and so predictable. But I think this year, this is the best lineup we've had in a long time. Am I wrong, Charlie?
No, you're not wrong. You're absolutely right. My final thought would just be, I really think this is between Gervais and Parsons. Either one of them, I really can, and it's one of these that's like as before I doze off to sleep, it like gnaws at my head, and I'm just thinking, should I put Parsons at number one? Should I keep Gervais at number one? It's a fun but actually kind of aggravating to try to predict this year.
I'm that way with comedy actors. I'm switching in my head every day. Julie Louis-Dreyfus or Melissa McCarthy.
Same here.
But I think this category, at least for me, is a lock for Ricky Gervais. But who knows? Okay, Rob, what are your final thoughts?
I think it's great that Gervais is getting this publicity for Derek out there because it's actually a really good show. It's very heartwarming and very touching. The episode that you saw is pretty much how season 1 is in season 2. I also think not to pick on you, Marcus, but I love how you're so gung ho about Gervais winning for an episode where he's sympathetic, where he's not unlikable, where he's funny, and where his father dies. But Julie Louis-Dreyfus and Melissa McCarthy has the same exact episode, and there's no way she can win against somebody who's unlikable and not that funny. And so we could have two actors in the lead comedy categories winning for episodes where their fathers died, which I think is crazy.
Or they could go the opposite way and give Emmys to people that have won before, like Parsons and Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah, right.
So I just don't know which way. So I'm kind of hedging my bets, and I'm going to do one father dying and one repeat winner. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. We're going to have a ton more of these videos, so come back to Derby and check out more during Emmy season. Okay, bye guys.